Take 3.
4, 5, and 6. Come on, get your kicks, cause you don't need the money when it looks like I'm not sure if that part's left in or not, but anyways, we got back with some, now we're having fun. We got back watching episode 2 of Altered Carbon,
yes.
And it was pretty nuts. A lot of things happened. Mind-blowing, like, quite literally mind-blowing in some cases.
Kovac is a douche.
Yeah.
He's a jerk.
Poor Poe, man.
Like, this episode, you just feel so bad for Poe.
Like, just, that guy just gets screwed and, like, dumped on by, like, society, other AIs in the last season.
It really is rough.
This season. He got, like, his, personhood hacked, I think?
He basically got hacked, and, like, he's kind of broken, but okay, you wanna start from the beginning?
Yeah,
and
I was gonna try to do it to the best of my memory, chronologically, what all goes down. So
okay, well, first of all, spoilers.
Right. Before we say anything else.
All right.
Spoilers.
I had already said it. You just okay.
Just more dramatically, but that's fine.
Okay. Okay, so the episode started. We had the Protectorate show up to the crime scene. And you remember from season 1, Protectorate is basically the whole revolution the envoys are fighting against. This whole war, and they're basically just like
the man personified is essentially what SeaTac is. I think
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember the dude was going after Kovac, killed him in the hotel season 1.
Yeah,
and that's when he woke up like 250 years later in a sleeve.
So the Protectorate shows up. They're at the crime scene of where Axley was. There's a detective there. And right away we get the sense that there's a disconnect between the Protectorate and local law enforcement and even just local politics. Like, the Protectorate is its own thing.
Like, kind of like the Galactic Empire.
Pretty much.
Like, in a
sense, it is like the Galactic Empire. And so, they talk about it, and, detective kind of gives them the rundown. And, because, the whole time the detective is really kind of just like, I don't like you guys.
Right. He's doing the digs, like, somebody was into some messed up gene splicing, like, it has either dog or something, and I think we get his name, Colonel Carrera. He's like, you sure it wasn't Wolf?
And he's just like, Wolf, dog, what does it matter?
Yeah, what does it matter? What's the difference?
And then, the Colonel is just like, well, the dog, you kick it, it's gonna just come back to you whimpering, and you beg for forgiveness. And then he goes, a wolf? You kick a wolf.
Starts patting the guy, yeah.
And that's when, like, him and his whole squad just start. And I'll admit, though it was cool, it was a little overdone. They were being a little too extra with the just synchronized.
Yeah,
Here, catch.
I can see that. It literally was like a game of, pass the...
It was basically a game of pass the...
But it was cool.
It was cool, but it was...
It's
a bit much.
It does serve as a plot point, because you're like, oh, all of them have magnet hands like Kovac's sleeve.
Well, it was more than just magnet hands. Because, like, when they were talking about the body, they were saying, there was gene splicing, and then he was like, that's military, that's more than military grade, that's our grade.
Yeah, that's Special Forces grade.
Special Forces grade sleeve that we find out Kovac is in. And Kovac doesn't know this. He just knows magnet hands. That's all he can do.
That's cool.
But you see them and they're just...
And not only but it is...
It's like it's very robotic.
Yes.
It's like they're robots, almost, in a sense.
Flawless execution.
And they just... everyone, like, they throwing the, and it's like they have two guns, I think.
Yeah, well, they
like the entire
everybody else guns. Just...
Yeah, they took everyone's, but then at a certain point they're just using the two, and like they throw it, and then you have like the two, cops that were outside running, and you just have the person who was at the side of the door, pow, and you're just like.
The other thing to note during that encounter is they weren't just shooting to kill; they blew everyone's stats
They specifically, well, because they mentioned, like, when he came in, he was just like, talking to, I'm choking. He was talking to the detective about, the case and seeing what the detective knew. And he was just like, the detective was like, oh no, this wasn't just like he knew it was more, because they were trying to say it was someone like from the Kellist Revolution.
Yeah,
and he was just like, I don't,
military veteran with PTSD,
and like he was very, like, the detective was very much
coarse
on the, no, he was very much on the spot of like profiling who did this, though it was kind of, they are missing details based on what we know, but then the colonel goes, who have you told your men about this? And the detective was like, I don't keep secrets from my men. They were going to kill the detective no matter what. They were just trying to find out if they needed to kill his men.
I forgot that detail.
Because you also see at the end, after they basically just kill that whole entire squad, like, they're all wearing gloves. They basically take the detective's gun, after basically using it to blow his own stack out, puts it in his hand and just does this, and then they just roll out.
Well, the other thing too is, like, I forget when in the episode we get a sense of the scale of how big the Protectorate is. I think it's what's her name, Danica Harlan. She says 49 planets, I believe.
I believe so.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, so the Protectorate is huge. And the other thing is, you've seen in previous, like, season 1, a SeaTac Praetorian is God. Basically. Like, you cannot. So even if somebody was like, this is suspicious how all these dudes died, like, you cannot declare a war on the Protectorate. Like, they will come after you.
They will. So then we go back to Kovac, and, he's talking to Poe, and it's like he's figured out that he's conflicted because he's like, either this is Kel that, I ran into in the first episode, or someone's wearing her sleeve.
Yeah, sleeve jacker, which...
And, well...
Gosh.
And it's like he's very conflicted with... Because he doesn't know what he's going to do next.
Doesn't have a lead either.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lead. And so then, he gets Poe, and he's just like... Someone had to know why how he knew she was going to be there, and why he wanted Kovac to guard him.
And also why, like, somebody not only killed him but blew out all his DHF backups. And furthermore than that, where did they get the weapon? What weapon?
Well, he doesn't know anything about that weapon. He's not concerned with that weapon.
Oh yeah, that's right. He just woke up there.
He just woke up. Yeah, the colonel is the one who mentioned that there was a weapon
that happened,
and that's like he's gone. Actually, is gone. Like. And so, but, back to Kovac and Poe, he's like, and, Poe is helping him, and he's like, basically they decide to try and find the bounty hunter that, caught him in the first episode. So basically he has Poe, like, pull up all the bounties on the planet, and, as he's doing that, Poe glitches, and, just becomes a whole bunch of pictures of Lizzie. And Kovac is like, no, stop. And he's just like, Poe, you need to reboot. And Poe is like, oh, no, I'm fine. I just need to, run some scans. It's fine. And Kovac is like, no, it's not. And he's, like, very adamant, like, you need to reboot. And, basically, he, like, stuff comes up, and then, well, no, because Poe, basically, he is able to gather who, like, the top 5 bounties are on the planet.
Right.
That, Harlan's world. And, like, basically that kind of just, like, changed the subject. And then Kovac is just like, we're not done.
And he sets off on his adventure, I think,
to go find the bounty hunter.
Yeah.
And then he finds bounty hunter, and he basically process of elimination on, like, top 5 bounties.
Yeah, just chews through them
and
off
then,
screen, I think.
Yeah, off screen.
For, like, most of them.
Except for the last one, because he knows that's where she's gonna be. So he goes there, basically offers her their stacks, which would be what you can claim the bounty for information on Axley. And then, so he goes back to her place, and we're also getting, like, she's going to be important later on. She's not just bounty hunter for information and then forgot about.
Right.
Because she very clearly is looking for someone. Because even when she goes in and turns in, like, the bounties, she puts all her money on a bounty for someone else.
There's a couple important things that do happen, though. If I remember right, in the fight, they have, I think, Reb, or some
like
name
that.
with an R was a bounty dude. Not too important, I think, but, like, they take him out, but they're talking about the scalps aren't his.
Yeah.
That he's turned
They were the
on.
coils the bounty hunter had.
Right.
Because she also had, like, these coil things.
Which we haven't really seen before.
And she was like, you broke the code. You're only supposed to take, like, from, like, Battleground. You can't take it from other, I'm guessing, people in the guild. And she was like, the guild is upset.
Or hunters or whoever.
Yeah, basically it was like Bounty Hunters Guild. Which makes sense.
And she uses the coils to detonate one of the...
Because she's in, like, this, like, the dude... where she's at, he has, like, a lot of, like, tech and a lot of stuff that's basically, like, black market stuff.
Right, yeah.
And, like, at first he even says, like, get away from my stuff. I don't want those coils setting anything off.
And you think he's joking, like...
And then you see, and it's basically, because what's the thing Kovac and, like, everyone else has in their eye? Where he basically is, like, the...
My first thought was an Oni tool, but I think that's Mass Effect.
It's basically
something like that. But yeah, some type of Auspex.
I actually think that's what it's called.
Auspex?
Oni.
Oh, Oni. It might be.
Or something like that.
We'll look into that later.
But she basically had that, but it could, like, detonate stuff. And it was just like, that's going to come in handy later, I feel.
Yeah, and that also opens up the door for, like, you know, other cyberpunk things like Deus Ex, Mass Effect.
Well, because then it goes back to, you know, what we know about the sleeve Kovac is in. Is they were doing gene splicing on this particular, like, already military grade sleeve. And they're gene splicing. So there's a lot of stuff that is going on that's a lot deeper than what we saw in season 1.
And that also opens up the door for, like, modifications, augments, all kinds of... So yeah, when that happened with the coils and they talked about the wolf gene splicing, I was just like, oh.
Yep.
Okay.
So then you go, and the colonel interrupts a meeting that, it's still, her last name is still Harlan.
Yeah, Danica Harlan.
That Harlan is having with all these other, we're guessing rich people.
Dudes.
Rich,
bored.
And he's like, you know, Axley is dead. And you see some of them just like,
oh no.
Dead.
That hasn't happened in a while.
And, you know, basically, you also see the separation between, because Harlan is like the governor, mayor, or whatever.
Yeah, planetary
in charge of the planet, basically.
Governor, we'll just say.
And there's a very clear disconnect between both their power, because she's just like, why are you still here? And he's just like, well, because this sleeve is basically one of ours. Mm-hmm. He even said it's one of like the sleeves that me and my men use. So that puts it in the case's protectorate issue. And so we're not leaving until we get that sleeve back. And then she's like, well, if it's 20 years, I'm sure you guys have biometric scanners. And so it shouldn't take that long and you should be gone soon.
Yeah, bio trackers. And then you're like, oh boy.
And like, she says that and then you're just like, uh-oh. But, yeah, so they have that whole discussion. And you can very clearly see, like, and she keeps mentioning, like, we just want peace on this planet. But you can clearly see there's, the Protectorate is, again, like you said, like the Galactic Empire. Mm-hmm. And then everyone else, even though they're in charge, you're not really in charge.
Right. You are allowed your position.
It really
is. Real sense.
And you see that because he just walks in,
states what he's doing,
says, I'm not leaving, and just leaves.
And there's a dynamic a lot of people are saying of like, I'm not my father, and they say, and we're all the worse off for it. And you're like, ooh. Mm-hmm. Like.
Yep.
And yeah, that's an interesting thing, man.
And then there's another thing, because then, like, basically after that meeting she's talking with one of the people who were there, and it was one of her father's friends. And, she's just like, what are you going to do? Are you going to try and call him? We all have. We've all tried. And then she says, ever since he renounced, he did the renouncing ceremony, no one's heard from him. He's gone.
That could come into play.
And then you're just like, hold on. And so he was one of the original people who, like, so this is like founding people renounces it. And then you're just like, hang on, that doesn't, all these other people are still here. There's a possibility that even Kel is still here.
Yeah.
Why would he renounce this?
Hundreds of years old.
Hundreds of years old. Why would he would just renounce it?
And I have a couple of theories on that, but I'm not sure I should just lay them all out in a review.
I mean, go ahead.
Because one of my theories, is that because obviously Kel, Takeshi, they're hundreds of years old.
Yep.
Actually says a thing that's important of I sailed across a void in a colony ship before stacks were
while Earth was dying.
Yeah, while we left a dying planet behind. And it's because I think a lot of season 1 takes place on Earth. But,
well, kind of Earth, basically.
Oh, gotcha.
Because there were a lot of planets.
That's true. But I was basically saying, what if Old Man Harlan is with the Kellist Rebellion? That's my
There's a possibility that there are some people who had just lived for so long that they're just we cannot sustain this.
Mm-hmm.
And going into that, after that scene, then we go back to Poe and Kovac, and you see Poe, and he has kind of a tablet on the bar, and it has basically all the info about the sleeve, and he's writing sticky notes.
Oh yeah.
And he has sticky notes put, and basically all the information that he has, and he Kovac comes in and is like, what is this? And he's like, I found a solution to my short-term memory loss. And he starts trying to read them, and he's like, he mentions it was spliced with dog DNA.
Canis lupus, and then growls, and it's he's so he's such a playful little friend.
And it's he's trying his best. And then basically he's trying to read it, and Kovac's just I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I'll save the footnotes for later. What do you know about
these guys he got
mechs,
the two that he talked to the bounty hunter about. And so Poe's like, oh, I'll look that up. And then I think he slightly glitches again. And then Kovac is like, I thought I told you to reboot.
His eye twitches, and the thing I notice is every time he glitches, his eye twitches, and he checks.
Yeah, he started doing that.
And
it's like he tried to like stop himself from glitching, and it wasn't as much. But then he was just like, basically, who do I need to look up again? And then that's when Kovac was just like, I told you to reboot.
Yeah, because he says like, did you say Kelcrest Falconer was still on the plane? And he's like, I've told you this like 3 times.
And he like knocks all his sticky notes off the thing, and he starts yelling at him. And then Kovac is like, you just don't want to reboot because you think you're gonna forget about Lizzie. And Poe is just like, well, yeah. And then Kovac is just like, you're gonna get me killed. Reboot. Basically, it's not worth it to try and hold on. And then, like, this is a very big, important scene.
Very emotional, too.
Because like, you can see, like, because Poe is an AI. But you can see in his expression, he's just like, and, he's like, but I don't want to risk the chance of forgetting Lizzie. And then he's also like, if I reboot, I might even forget all of our adventures across the galaxy.
Yeah, and he's like, who's to say how long I'll be out? Days, weeks,
a month? He's like, you obviously need me.
Mm-hmm. And he said there won't be a me to risk losing.
He's like, if I reboot and forget everything, there's not a me to risk losing.
Mm-hmm.
And, Kovac just doesn't want to hear it. And Kovac is really being a jerk. Like, he is being an absolute tool right now.
Yeah, he was being a complete dick in this scene. Like...
And he's just like... And then, they're arguing, and then Poe is just like... Because he's like, just forget it. It's meaningless. And he's just like you,
Are
just like
for Kelcrest.
Just like you, how you're like... he's like you've forgotten about Miss Falconer. And then you just kind of see Kovac kind of just stops. And it's like, I think like the really like cool aspect of this scene is you're seeing like what would happen to humanity if we had this kind of technology. Mm-hmm. Because we're just so disconnected from needing our memories, and like
we take it for granted.
Honestly. Then you have like, we basically, in a sense, would lose humanity. The aspect that makes us human. Meanwhile, you have this AI desperately, like, literally glitching out, desperately trying to hold on to memories. Like, so it's like the AI is gaining humanity and becoming more human than we are. And it very much becomes, and like, I think this is why we just like, Kovac is a douche. Detroit Become Human, Blade Runner.
Right.
It's like, that's what you're seeing.
And that's the whole thing with cyberpunk, is it's a beautiful dichotomy of like, AI and those machines will gain empathy, and the whole thing with this show
while we're human, we're losing
the soul, empathy, humanity itself just withers and decays away. Death is meaningless.
Yeah, it's like everything's meaningless. Yet all these other things are trying to find meaning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a scene, I think, a little bit after the sticky note thing you were talking about, of and it paints a really poignant picture.
Yeah, it's basically Kovac leaves because he's just like, I'm not dealing with this. You also see, like, it kind of does a little bit of foreshadowing to, if you forgot, where it mentioned that he had the sleeve has the bio scanner. If he had just stopped and listened, and listened to Poe and let him talk, because the camera drips down, and on one of the sticky notes that he knocked on the floor, it says that.
Bio-tracker.
It says bio-tracker, because that was the thing Poe was saying before he even walked in. He was just like, oh, bio-tracker. You thought you could hide that from me, huh? And, he's writing it down. He's happy. Like, he's like, I figured out a solution.
Yeah.
And it's like, because the thing with the sticky notes, that's what we do now when we forget things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we forget something, just write it on a sticky note and here. And you'll notice sometimes people who have like memory loss and stuff from like accidents or age, they'll put sticky notes places just as like a reminder. And that's a very human thing to do. And you see this AI doing it, and he's just like, oh my gosh, I found this solution. And like, to us, it's just sticky notes.
Right, yeah.
It's something we already do.
But
to him, it's just like, this is a solution. I don't have to forget my memories, and, you know, I can still be helpful. But
and
go on to it.
It's honestly adorable.
It is. And it's just like...
to watch Poe just, like, be so helpful and, like, figure things out. Just, like, you just want to, like, give Poe a big old hug in this show. Like,
you really do.
And what happens after that? Oh, yeah, I think he gets in the train ride for, like, transit or cable car, whatever it is, with old Japanese man. I think Tanadeshi?
Something like...
He calls him Oyabun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. They haven't used his actual name in a while in the show, so it's hard for me to remember exactly.
But, like, he starts talking to him, and he's even getting an attitude with him. And he's just like... You don't order me around.
Yeah, he's like, sit down, child. Like,
and then Kovacs apologizes to him. And he's just like, don't let your personal feelings make you mistreat your friends.
And he says it's what I'm best at, almost regretfully.
Because he knows he just did this to Poe.
Yeah, he just acted like a complete douchebag.
And it's like, Poe isn't gonna argue back as much. Whereas you have this other person, they're just like, shut your face.
Yeah, don't order me around.
It's like, who are you? I can turn you over right now.
And yeah, I think he's basically like the leader of like the Yakuza on the planet.
He
essentially.
Is. Yeah.
That's
but yeah, basically, you know, they're talking, and basically he didn't get the information he wanted from Poe, so he's using him to like find out who these guys are who were like working with Axley and would have information on why he wanted him there. So he gives them the information, and then, you know, it goes through, and they're basically at this place, and he makes a comment before he leaves. He's like, basically, here, we have more stacks than we have sleeves.
Oh yeah, the war hasn't been kind to us.
Yeah, we have more stacks than we have sleeves. And so, basically, he has to go to this place where, where they were, like, basically, just, like,
farming the trash.
They were basic. Yeah, they were. It's like he goes and, like, well, there's just like this giant dumpster pile, and you know it's trash because there's like all the metal and just discarded stuff. But also in this pile are just piles of stacks, and they're not damaged.
Yeah, they're just
thrown away.
Essentially.
So it's like people who, you know, were supposed to, you know, live forever in this thing. People's memories, people's lives are just gone.
Experiences, their whole
just in the trash.
Conscious.
In the trash.
And yeah, I think that's the most important thing I drew from the episode is watching this. I'm like, because that, honestly, you could definitely see happening in the future. Like, oh, we have this wonderful technology. It's like, well, doesn't really benefit everybody now, does it? And it goes from that to what they do with the stacks.
Yeah, they were basically, for the people who just live so long, you just don't feel anything anymore. Because, like, you wouldn't after a certain point. I mean, yeah, you can shoot me, but I'm just going to get spun back up. I'm rich.
Yeah, or like, whatever, who
cares,
there's
man? No point in being afraid of anything, because, again, I mean, yeah, if I die, but I'm just going to get spun back up and put in a clone, and...
It becomes a state of excess where it's like, you know, no matter how many drugs, alcohol, like, whatever you do,
something that is more powerful than any, like, drug for these people is just being able to feel something.
Right.
And so they were basically, like, somehow, like, farming it to where they could farm, like, people's memories, basically for entertainment.
I think the way they did, because it shows them
It's
when
like
they
they
get
do
to this
like a-
club, like where they were farming the experiences. They like imprint it on the back of their neck where the stack is, and I think
And then it basically
functions like a cybernetic transfer USB drive.
sort of, basically,
makes
it's like you
any
plug the
sense?
USB drive and then you just boot it up and you can see like this person's memory. I'm assuming like their last memories.
Yeah.
And so basically, you know, Kovac finds these guys and
does the whole you want to buy some death sticks, and they're like, yeah, let's party, dude.
and then he's like, Axley is dead. And they're just like,
ooh.
All right, we'll talk in another room. And so he's like, why did Axley want me here? And they were just like, he was being real paranoid and weird, and we just like, and you know, they were just like, dude, what are you talking about? Chill out. You have clones. But if you're saying he's dead, maybe he wasn't paranoid. And so then they're just like, the club owner basically lets us keep stuff, even if it's, you know, the illegal
Contraband,
stuff.
illegal. Like,
Yeah.
we have the good stuff.
And basically they had something Axley had seen. Which it would have been illegal because he saw Kel. Which anything relating to Kel was just no.
Yeah.
And it's like
contraband.
So, you know, Kovac does it. He looks and, you know, he sees Kel. And basically what you see is like you see just like the hood. She's got the whole Sith thing going on. And she's just like, she's drawing something. And I feel like that's going to be important because she's very like focused on this, but also kind of like mumbling and saying different things.
Something about the rain and ashes fell.
And like you see,
and
like
just slashing at the wall with this
like
knife.
I think those were Protectorate that she, because they had the full
yeah.
So and they're like, put the knife down, and like she just starts walking, and they're like, put the knife down, and they like try, and she just
murders everything.
Well, and then it's like she just kills, and she just like it's like she's not focused on what she's doing. It's like she is killing because like as he's watching this, she's walking through a crowd and just random people, and like literally like there's like a woman walking with their like kid, and like they fall, and like the kid is like reaching for the mom, and then Kel just and that's when Kovac takes it off, and he's just like, that's not her.
Yeah, I've seen enough at this point.
He's like, but then at that point you hear just like gunshots and screaming outside the room, and then he looks, and you're thinking, oh wait, they have the bio tracker. The Protectorate came to clean. I mean, they technically would be right because this kind of club probably shouldn't exist. Yeah. And like, so they could just, you know, go in and just be like, oh, we were just cleaning up.
Blazing. Yeah.
But then you look, it's not them. It's, you know, Kel or whoever's wearing her sleeve. So Kovac just immediately get out of that sleeve.
And she's just like...
And like they start fighting, and she's like kicking his butt.
Demolishing him. Even in his mil-spec sleeve.
Well, because it's like she's aware that it's a mil... Because he like, you know, tries to shoot, drops the gun, so then he tries to like magnet... He's like force. And you see the gun, and she just kicks it before it can reach his hand. And it's just like, you know, the magnet hands is cool, but I mean, at the end of the day, all you have to do is just...
Or, you can exploit it very easily.
Interrupt the magnetic flow. And it's just like, really? And then, you know, they're fighting. And, like, she's also trying to, like, walk away. And he's just, like, basically, like, you know, just, he wants whoever's in the sleep out. So, he like, throws a knife. And then, like, she just catches it. Like this. And then she turns.
By the blade, by the handle, catches it, not looking at it, just like...
But then she turns, and then she says, talk. And then you're just like, what? Is this actually Kel? Mm-hmm. And then he's also just like, Kel? And like they start talking, But then that's when C-Tech comes, so they can't talk for long. He's just like, leave. You have to go. And then, C-Tech comes in, and it's the Colonel and his squad. And, Kovac has the guns. Or no, he takes one of their guns and, hits them. And,
he takes a
the Colonel was, on the ground. And, his squad was just, ready to shoot. And the Colonel was just like, no. And then he was just like, go ahead and do it. Do it. Shoot. And, you can see. And then Kovac just like, what the and he's just like,
yeah, what the hell is going on?
And then the Colonel gets up. And at this point, you can tell Kovac really cannot move. And he's freaking out. And he's just like, if this was a wolf pack, I'm the alpha. Mm-hmm. And you're just my bitch. And just punches.
Smacks. And it's just like, oh.
And that's basically how it ends. And you're just like, oh, snaps. So, in a sense, yeah, that's a military grade. But they would have things in place to avoid people going rogue.
And contingencies.
Because the last thing you would want is one of those sleeves just
rampaging around.
On the other side.
Oh, on the rebellion, yeah.
And so, he does that. So now we're guessing Kovac is going to go into their custody, and that's going to be episode 3. But another thing, is it possible that someone re-sleeved Kel? Because we remember his sister in the first episode said, I know where she is. I had her spun up too when they spun me up.
And she didn't want to be spun back.
Kel didn't want to be. And we've seen with Kovac, every time he's been re-sleeved, it's just like, what's going on?
Just PTSD
but
times 1,000.
If you get re-sleeved and you don't have anything like a controlled environment, you're gonna go on a rampage.
That's actually a really good point, because Kovac has been in a controlled environment
every time,
and a lot can happen in, I think it was 30
and even
years
the
since
first
season
time,
1, season 2.
The first time he broke that one doctor's arm until he looked in a mirror, and that's why when he said Axley, he said make sure there's a mirror in the room.
Actually knew what he was doing.
And
he was like, I don't want my arm broken.
And actually, he was just like, okay, whatever. But again, it was a controlled environment. So if someone, and I think it's going to come into Old Man Harlan is not gone.
Old Man Harlan is probably just this whimsical joker out on the planet somewhere.
If anything, he might be hiding if Kel came back. If, her comeback was prior to him doing this renouncing thing, he's hiding. Because she went after Axley, and Axley was one of the original people. She was one of the original people. Harlan would be one of the original people.
Kel would have known who the original, Mets were, because she was around from back then.
She was the one who made the stacks. Basically.
She was, yeah. But I've got a crazy theory of because they were talking about, even in season 1, ancient technology from the elders, they're all extinct. Except we've seen a couple hints, episode 1, the guy grew a tree in captivity,
that was basically
the first of its kind. Episode 2, we see the skeleton thing behind Danica. I think the elders may not be as extinct as people think, or how
they're not what you think.
Today people are talking about cloning woolly mammoths out of DNA, and a society is advanced enough to have stacks. What if somebody cloned one or spun it back up? Or there's a lot of possibilities.
There's a lot of stuff that could happen, and I feel like we're gonna have to keep watching to see.
Oh yeah, very excited to see what could happen.